Well, it's great to be here. Rod, how are you? What I want to do tonight is talk about a couple of things. The most important, I guess, at the end is what we're doing to deal with what we see as a problem in the union area with nurses and teachers, and where we're going to go with that. And before I get to that stage, I'll define the four different areas, four different union areas, and how they raise their money. But let me just start with this. We all remember Sir Robert Menzies as the founder of the Liberal Party and the Conservative tradition in Australia. And I read a very interesting article in Quadrant recently. I don't know, does anyone here get Quadrant? Right, I can't remember who the author was, but someone was writing about the Menzies legacy. And it's amazing how we forget these things. I mean, this is for the oldies, not so much you younger people. In the 50s, the political situation was you had Menzies Group, if you like, based on the small business employers, and you had the Labor Party, which was sort of based on the union funding. And there was a balance. The unions funded the Labor Party because, let's face it, the Labor Party was founded by the unions. In Barcaldine, the year after the AWU was formed in Barcaldine under the Tree of Knowledge, the following year they formed the Queensland division of the Australian Labor Party. So in those days, the Labor Party funded the unions funded the Labor Party, but the Liberal Party, the Conservatives, were funded by business. And those of you who can remember, everything had a price, didn't it? If you wanted to buy a Holden car, it had a set price. It would have been, I don't know, £200 in those days in Victoria. And in New South Wales, it would have been £200. Everywhere in Australia, it was the same price. Everything was price fixed. You know, there were retail prices for everything. And who were the beneficiaries of retail, fixed retail or recommended retail pricing? Of course, those businesses. And those businesses were happy to, if you like, combine together in their industry associations and give money to those industry associations in order to protect their right to overcharges. And those industry associations gave money to the Liberal Party. So there was a balance. And then Mr. Hawke, Mr. Keating came along. And what did they do? They essentially got rid of all that with the support of John Howard. Thank God for John Howard. Right? And that totally liberated our economy. Goods and services can no longer be price fixed officially. There were some outstanding bits and pieces where they hung on, but in general, the pricing structures changed dramatically. It was open and competitive. But what that meant was that businesses no longer had a reason to contribute a lot of money to the industry associations to preserve a right to overcharges. So the funding for the Conservative side of politics fell away. And the union movement, although there was a pretty good attempt with work choices to knock the unions out of the game, but the people who drafted the legislation did not understand what they were doing or why, and they stuffed it up totally. So today, it's estimated, I was on Steve Austin's show on the 23rd of May, because I remember that was my son's birthday. And Steve made the point, he said, the Menzies Institute has just said that 140 million is used and directed towards left-wing causes in this country. 140 million, of that 140 million, it was estimated, I think it was 100 or 110 million comes from the unions. So 100, let's just keep the numbers really round, 100 million a year goes to left-wing causes, much of it to the Labor Party. And that's what we have to deal with. And unfortunately, the Conservative side of politics have had no heart to tackle this issue. And they've had no interest in determining how the unions make their money. And that's what I want to talk about, and it's generality. Industrial relations and employment stuff is really very simple, right? All the people involved in it make it very, very complicated. Complexity hides everything. But the reality is simple. There are 4 groups in the union movement, and I'll just go through each of the 4. They all raise their money in different ways. And if we're going to deal with them, we have to have 4 different solutions. It's a mistake when politicians go up and say, oh, we must do something about the unions. And you say, which ones? Right? So let me give you the 4 groups. The first one is the one that we're out to tackle. Teachers and nurses. Every nurse in Australia believes that they need professional indemnity insurance. Does anyone not know what that is? All professional, just a quick explanation of PI insurance. All professionals, for instance, your doctor, accountant, lawyers, all have what's called professional indemnity insurance, which indemnifies them against their own stuff-ups. That's what it is, and it's an insurable risk. And the legal reality is that an employee cannot be held liable for their stuff-up. But that hasn't changed the nurses' union in particular for making it a condition of registration to be a nurse that every employee nurse has to have a professional indemnity insurance policy. And where can they get this professional indemnity insurance policy? From their correcto. You can get it from other places, but it's quite expensive. Teachers. Has anyone met a teacher that doesn't believe they need to be protected from being sued or attacked by a parent or something else? Every single one of them believe that they need to be indemnified. And they, of course, get professional indemnity insurance through their teachers' unions. Now, the market is quite big. I believe there's about 350,000 nurses in Australia. There's some doubt whether I just saw some figures from the Nursing Federation that said 250, but someone else told me 350. But anyway, let's just say it's 300,000. It's a lot of people, a lot of nurses. Teachers, how many teachers are there in Australia? I should have looked this up, but my guess is probably about the same. So 6. So you've got another 300,000 or 400,000. So you've got 600,000 to 700,000 teachers and nurses, right? And they're paying how much a year?
800.
Well, probably on average, they're probably paying around about 400 because there's part-timers and things. But just keeping, so we've got 700,000. Let's just say $500 a head, right? So what have we got? 700,000. Half of that's 350 million per annum. That's how much the fee income is to the teachers and nurses. All based on one proposition that these people need professional indemnity insurance. Now, and I'll talk about this later, the real market is actually half. They're charging twice as much as they need. Right? We've just set up an alternate nurses union and we're half the price. Sorry, the existing union are twice what they need. We're the right price. So you do that, the real market's not 350,000, it's probably about half of that, so 135 million. We're after 100 of that. Now, we don't have to get anywhere near that to destroy the cash flow model of the unions and the Labor Party, do we? $200 per member, nurses, goes off to a left-wing cause. Most of it's just wasted, but there's people everywhere running around, doing political things, ostensibly for the nurses. So that's market one. And the solution to that is what we're doing. We've set up a service business. It's a proper incorporated association. Nurses, we're only tiny. This time last year we had 400 members. We've now it'll be Thursday or Friday this week, it'll be 1,500. 3,000 at Christmas, 10,000 the following Christmas. God knows what it'll be after that. Because nurses want service. They have issues all the time. That's what we do. We deal with the issues on a business-like basis. So that's group one. Group two, Coles and Woolworths. Who's been following Penny Vickers, the Coles night stacker, who's taking on the Coles EBA? I know Penny, very focused person, very focused. She's going to win. The issue there is that the SDA, which is the shoppies union, and you can include in that group the AWU, the Transport Workers Union, some of the other. The deal that they do, the way they raise money, is that we've given unions special privileged position, right? Where they and they alone can do special deals which can reduce the effect of an award. There's no point having that power unless you can use it, right? So the deal's very simple. The SDA went to Coles, Woolworths, KFC, McDonald's, and they negotiated arrangements which were less than the award, which meant that the unit labour costs of those big firms is less than their competitors. And here's the deal. Here's the deal. If I have that power and I alone have that power, what's it worth? And you're the employer. I can do this for you and I can reduce your costs. Whether I do it for somebody else is between you and me. So the deal was very simple. I'll do that for you, you're Mr. Coles. I'll do the deal for you on the condition that you make sure every one of your employees is a member of my union. And I've got something better for you. I won't do the same for the IGA. I won't do the same for your smaller competitors. The SDA gets around about income of 70 million that we can track a year, right? Who in Coles would join the SDA if it wasn't a condition of their employment to do so? There's 75,000 members, employees there. Probably the vast majority are in the SDA. If Coles didn't make it compulsory, how many would be members of the SDA? Bugger all, 5%. That's the second group. That's how they make their money, because we allow them to have these special rules. The third group, you're all familiar with, CMFEU. Aren't they mongrels? No, they're just agents of the Lend-Lease and CIMEC, the big contractors, who add on 30% more to their tenders for the state government. 30%. Because they have agreed to egregious conditions which in the real world, in a competitive world, would never be allowed. But the big contractors control the Master Builders Association and the Civil Contractors Association, right? And they make sure that, oh no, gee whiz, oh the CMFE, oh they're a necessary evil. The solution is simple. You've all seen the kerfuffle with the ABCC, the Australian Building and Construction Commission. Now, that should work. Actually, the legislation wasn't ever needed, because the way you solve that problem is the government says, hey, Mr. Lend-Lease, I don't like the uncompetitive arrangements you've entered into with the CMFEU. Until you fix that, you're not going to tender. You can't tender. That's simple, isn't it? The ACT government, that's Canberra, they have special arrangements there. If you want to do government business, you have to have special arrangements with the unions, a memorandum of understanding, which means that you employ union people, you pay the higher rates, which means that your tender is higher. They just do it with impunity. Everyone says, oh, it's okay, it's okay. That higher money, the bigger tender amounts, go back through the CMFEU, through the unions, not just the CMFEU, back to the Labor Party politicians. Nothing complicated about it. The solution is you just do the bloody opposite. You say, if you have those conditions, then you can't tender. So what are they going to do? Well, either go broke or they change their bloody conditions with the unions. But that requires, as they say, the old cotton wool test. That's where gentlemen go and grab down there and find out whether there's cotton wool or not. And at this stage, we have all the politicians have cotton wool. Then we've got the fourth group. They are, if you like, the public sector unions. Together, United Voice, and there's a few others. There's the ACTU new chairman, which she's in some bloody minor group. How do they work? Their shtick, as the Jewish people with the New Yorkers would say, is if, unless you're a member of our union, you're not going to get promoted. That's the deal, basically. Is there a solution for that one? No, you're right. I don't know what the solution for that one is either. but I figure they probably only put about 10 million bucks in the pile around. So if we can knock out the other 100 million, we've probably solved most of the problem. That's the one I haven't got an answer for, really. You know, people say, oh, the public servants are unhappy with their union because of the poor service. Yeah, but I can't see how you can really attack that. So there's your four groups. And we can easily fix three of them. Going back to the Coles and Woolies thing, the solution, by the way, if you want to know, is two solutions. One is you remove the special right of unions to do special deals, and that just chops off all the money. So you can imagine Bill Shorten agreeing with that one. No one on the Conservative side of politics understands how the money works. If you want to be serious about this, you've got to chop the bloody money off. The real solution is probably to foster enterprise unions. So you'd have a specific Coles-only union. The legislation allows it. Specific Woolies-only union. And because they'd be in-house, and there's legislatively can be done, there wouldn't be enough money left over for political contributions. Remember that? Yes, you've got a question?
There's a fifth group that occurs to me too.
Which is?
That is the NGOs who have deductible gift recipient status. Like the conservation groups and so on who rely on tax concessions.
Oh yeah. But they're not really unions, but we'll just do it. They're a bloody argument all by themselves, and I agree totally with you. But we're just talking about the unions. There's a few other groups. Remember I said there's about 140 million. I'm just talking about 100 to 120 million of it. The other lot, there's about 20 million that flows in from these people as well. So there's our four groups. So what did we do? Around about 4 years ago, we decided that I retired. I'm a businessman. I sold my business in 2012. I used to employ over 2,000 people on the payroll every week. It was a sort of like a labour hire employment arrangement, very lucrative, and I sold it to my management team and thought I'd retire. But I had this little project. I thought, someone's really got to do this because no one's done it except for Sid Cramp. Sid Cramp started the Paramedics Association, and they've got something like 3 times as many paramedics as members down the eastern seaboard as the United Voice amongst paramedics. So we're on a winner. We're only tiny. We started this Nurses Association in competition with the QNU. And I tell you what, we've been up a lot of dry gulches, because there's no one around that knows how to do it. Apart from Sid, and he was just in one little area. He's a mate of mine, by the way. The only other people that know how to do it are working for the unions now, and they don't really know what they're doing. They've just inherited a system. And they've got the QNU's got 24 million a year. I'm a businessman, I could run it on 10. and still have profit. You know, they got $24 million coming in and they made $4 million profit. I'd make 14 and provide a better service. But see, they don't know how to do it. So we've actually set up, and it's growing well. It's all about setting up the back-end systems so that people go onto a website and they go and join, and magic things happen out the back. It's cost a fortune to set up, and it all sort of happens, relatively automatically. And our challenge is to provide the service, because essentially 8%, between 6 and 8% of your members at any one time has got an issue. What's up?
What did you do to it?
I thought I was really winning you over, but it looks like
Screensaver kicked in and some.
that's all right. I'll put that to sleep as well. So, okay, so anyway, that's what we've done with the Nurses Union. We're 1,500 people this week. We'll be 3,000 at Christmas, and these aren't just make-up figures now. We've been going for 3 years. We can see the growth patterns and see how it's picking up, and we'll be 10,000 the following Christmas. At that stage, the Q&U are going to have to do something. We can't be half. They can't be twice as much as us, and not as good as us, without saying, "Jesus, we're going to lose our jobs here." Well, they are anyway, but at least they might have a bit of a fight. So that's where it's going to go, and I guess what we need to do is for you to spread the word, tell the nurses, and understand, if you can, that when someone gets up and says, "Oh, we must do something about the union," you can say, "Which one? Which one are you going to do something about?" If you do that, and everyone else does it, we grow and we win. Because being conservatives, and I am a conservative, we can win. For too long we sat back and said our role is just to stop the tide of the left and hold them off as long as possible, until they finally push us back. No, bugger them. Fight back. We've got to fight them. And it's good that you people are here. Thank you very much. Questions? Guy behind you, yes?
Which union has the most control or influence in the current Queensland government?
Again, I don't really know, but you'd find that different unions have different influence on different people. So again, there's no simple answer to that. United Voice have really got a lot of sway amongst certain of the ministers, and CMFU pay a lot of money, all right? So they have a lot of influence. It's just money. It's all about money. Money talks. Don't use just think in terms of money. Who's providing the money for anything? That explains nearly everything. I mean, one of your books, library books, is Make Australia Right, which I'm one of the contributors. I wrote about what I've just spoken to you about in the book. What we've got to do with the union movement is follow the money. Yes.
Do you know why Bill Ludwig hated Bruce Wilson so much?
They're in the union movement. Goes with the territory. They're haters. Wilson, this is the guy that was involved with the Julie Gillard thing.
Yeah, that's the one. And
they just, he would have. They don't need much of a reason.
it's simple economics and follow the money.
Yeah.
What Bruce Wilson was doing was ripping off employers and then putting the money in his own pocket. Now, what Bill Ludwig and an honest trade union boss would do is use that money to fund fake memberships in the union so they could go to a meeting of the Labor Party or the TLC or the ACTU with a stack of proxy votes from members who don't exist.
And that's, I was talking to Julie Sloan, a friend of mine, just the other day about this, and she thought it was dreadful. I thought, no, it's just money. It's other people's money, Jude. It doesn't matter. That's Ludwig was a past master of this. It's not his money. They claimed he used to have 150,000 members. They probably had about 70, and he used to claim 150, but he used to pay the capitation fees for 150,000. which meant to give him all the delicate entitlements, and he could control the Labor Party, which the bill was more interested. It was more interesting to him to do that than provide service to his members. Crying out loud, they had a monopoly. You know, where are they going to go? That answer your question? Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, Rod?
Graeme, there was an attempt in the education sector to do something similar with an association. Do you know what happened with that?
Yeah, that was me. No, we had the wrong guy with us, so we decided to pull the pin. We weren't ready to do it, frankly, and we had the guy that we were doing it with, in our view, wasn't up to the next 2 years of eating glass. No. No, that's no. We've still got the. We've got all the names Australia-wide. We're going to do it Australia-wide because the nurses, the teachers and nurses, they're bloody same. Same format, same back end, similar website. You write the website. You've got a nurse's website. You can write a teacher's one probably in 2 days. And to do the brochures in another day. So it's because they're all essentially the same arguments. And the key to this is, one of the real important keys, is that we're not political. See, every member we get is $200 that the Labor Party doesn't get. What else is there? What do you need any more for? Why would we confuse the matter by saying, oh, look, we really support the Conservatives? No, we don't. What we do is we're stopping the money going to the Labor Party and not going to let our members can't pay, or the association cannot use members' money for any political purposes anywhere. And that's what the members want. Yep, that answers your question? Yes?
Graeme, I was a registered nurse and my registration lapsed in 2003, but for some years prior to that, while I wasn't hands-on, they allowed a part-time, which was a half the yearly annual fee of the full-time.
Yeah.
Do you have that option?
Oh yeah. That's why I say the average Q&U membership we think is probably would be similar to ours. We charge $350. The average we get into the association is about $250. Right? So Q&U would be the same ratio, right? So, if they're charging $650 at $670, the amount of money that they would receive would probably be about $500 on average. Good money, good work if you can get it. Right, you could 58,000 people by $500. 27 million. Well, they got 24 million, so it's only rough. Yep. Any more questions? Daniel, yes, young lady? You're a nurse?
Yeah, I just graduated from...
Good, I've got a brochure just for you.
Well, that's if you don't kick me out. I actually work for the SDA union as a recruiter, and I do have my own reservation about that. But, so are you saying that Coles makes people automatically members of the union when they become an employee, or are you just saying because they come under the enterprise?
You're not allowed to make them compulsory.
Yeah.
But the reality is that when you start work with Coles and Woolies, the managers know the game, right? Because the game is that the SDA will not do the deal for the IGA or any of the smaller competitors. The deal is that everyone starts and, people, it's their first job. Yeah, well, where do I sign, Comes out of their pay. There's a fair drop-off. I'm not saying that 75,000 people work for Coles. The membership's nowhere near 75,000 because they drop off and the SDA, you're obviously not lazy, but a lot of your brethren in the head office are lazy. They got the sea of money coming in, Yeah, it's good fun. Look at boxes at the football and good stuff.
So what are you offering the members that's different?
Half price. Sorry, the correct price.
But what do you do for them?
Well, we do. Good question. What do we do for them? Pretty much the same as what the Q&U does, only we think we do it better. It doesn't matter if we don't, at least we try to. People have issues all the time. you know, mainly bullying. Someone's changed my roster when they shouldn't have, and they've done this or done that, or, you know, someone doesn't like me, so they've manufactured, you know, issues against them. Pretty much rampant in the Queensland Health. Appalling culture. Not everywhere. There are some pockets of good management, but gee whiz, most of it's bad. So these people have these problems, most of which, 95% actually don't need a lawyer. They just need, really, the skill that's needed is management skill. And I'm a businessman, I'm a manager, right? That's what I am. And my partner's a management whiz, systems person. And most of the time it just can be solved with telephone calls, going to meetings, sorting them out, occasionally giving quite stern lectures to our members about behaving themselves, and just the sort of day-to-day stuff. That's what the QNU does, not quite the same way as we do. And people want these issues resolved. So that's essential. That's most of what we do. You know, we're starting to do the EBA negotiations. This is going to be interesting. Because I used to do a lot. I was the biggest, my firm used to be the biggest producer of workplace agreements in the country for a while. So I'm a bit of a whiz. I had a 6-page rule. Right, if you're going to do a workplace agreement, if it was any longer than 6 pages, you had to take something out. You weren't allowed to have any more than 6 pages. It's funny, you can actually do it within 6 pages easily. And all the EBAs are 50 pages to 100 pages. Most of it's crap. It's all policy. You know, I'm really looking forward to getting some time and going through and turning these 50-page, 100-page monsters into, well, it would make it 6 pages, but I reckon we can get them down to 10 or even less, and with just the schedules of rates, and just really start to change the system. But nothing, all the EBAs, they're all the same. There was a slight variations. The HR people in the private hospitals go along with the trashing of the culture. Just appalling. You know, HR people, don't start me. I used to employ them. And they're essentially running the health system. The HR people in the Queensland Nurses Union deal with the HR people in the hospitals. And we wonder why the health system doesn't work very well. Okay, Dan, it's your question?
Yeah, how many staff do you have?
Just counting. 6, I think, 5. It'll grow. Another one coming on. We'll probably put on 4 or 5 people next year. That's our challenge, actually, is to manage the servicing of the members, and getting the right people to do it, and having the systems where you can do the stuff efficiently. You know, that's going to be the essential difference between us and the traditional unions, who can just, we'll put someone else on and someone else on. And what happens is no one ends up doing anything. Did you have a question? Yes?
I've been with QNU since the year 2000, you know, as a registered nurse, graduate nurse, as you need to do for your indemnity insurance.
Yes.
And I've watched them go from smaller building to bigger building to bigger building to bigger building.
On the river.
Or very nice one along the river, yes. But so I was going to ask you, I have joined.
Us?
Yes, I have joined you, and I've saved.
Give her a hand. $200 that didn't go to the Labor Party. Beauty.
Well, I'm actually saving because I've gone from full-time down to part-time. So I've gone from $26 something, $26.50 a fortnight with QNU, and then I just paid up front was about $237. Then that was because if I pay a lump sum, they said I could
part-time.
Yeah, because I have gone part-time. But still a saving, I think, of around $300 going from even in the part-time figures.
So $300 by 17, what's that? 317, so what, for nearly 50? 51, so $5,100 extra you've paid in the last 17 years. And you got Beth Mole. How good is that?
I was going to ask, so how many nurses, how many people are with you now? What's your, how many nurses have joined you?
By Thursday or Friday, it'll be 1,500. It's our 14.50 something as at Monday, so, but the way it's going, it'll probably Thursday, Friday, maybe Saturday.
Because I work in the community, we're just in little pods everywhere, you know,
Yeah.
whole group bus and different areas and little pods, and I heard someone in the pod behind me talking about how he is going to join you or has just joined you because of the political donations.
Oh, it's the, no, we'll win, as long as we can manage it, and I believe we can. 90% of the work is about member issues, handling that. If we can get that right, and I think we can. This is the management business. That's a business, right? The association is a democratic incorporated association. We have a contract with them, right, to supply the services. And there's no full-time jobs in the association, so you will never get a Beth Mole. The president will come through, the president will serve for 2 years, and the new one will come through. And it's branch-based, so there'll be branches set up. And the money will go out to the Constitution specifies that money will go out to the branches. So you stop the centralisation. It's very hard for the left to take it over. In any event, if they do, someone will start another one, because the concept's simple. Any more questions, or will I warn you out? Yes?
I don't know if you've looked at this, but higher education is a absolute fortress for the learning left. And I know, having worked in higher education, there are a number of unions involved. Do you have any understanding of where the money goes? Like, is the money flow that's making them even more feral than what they've historically been?
Oh, the tertiary institutions have been totally captured by the left, totally. And they're part of they're the urges, you know, for the traditional union movement. You know, they do all the surveys and the reports and stuff showing that, you know, there's increased unfairness, and thank God we've got the unions to help end that. And the little protege of mine, Jack Maguire, was the former student union president, just now moved on and real job. I hope probably coming to work for us later in the year. QUT, famous because of the 18C stuff. I said to Jack, who's a conservative, he actually managed to do a clean sweep for about 2 or 3 years because the left there were so disorganised in terms of student union politics. Although the constitution for the student union, I've read it, boy oh boy, how Jack did it, I don't know. Talk about, this is a constitution for identity politics, essentially to make sure that, you know, the Conservatives couldn't do what Jack actually did. Now, and I said to him, I said, are there any non-left staff here? And he said, not one, not one. It's just a sea of left-wing loony, all being paid for by us. And, you know, that's another area where we've just got to chop the money off. You know, the governments have got to say, look, sorry, we're going to change the whole funding basis for this. How about getting the students to pay themselves and then maybe funding the students more directly? They do get this now with the HEX thing. But stop all the other money going in from the government. Let it all come through the students and let the students actually find out actually how much it does cost and let them make decisions about which university they're going to go to. I reckon that'll change it. See, there's commercial solutions to these things. Okay, well, when you're all out, was that the last question? If so, thank you very much for having me here. It's been a pleasure. You have one more question.
Do you have flyers or anything? Like if we want to mention it to somebody, have you got any?
I've got some brochures. I hopped out of the car. I thought, where's my bag? Because I put a whole bunch of brochures in there and I left my bag in my office back at Sunshine Coast. There's a few brochures there. Help yourself. But you go to our website. No, it's not up there now. NPAQ, you can type in Nurse Union and ours comes up. How good's that? Google AdWords, gee whiz, good. Amazing technology. You know, the QNU don't even sort of have hold of this basic stuff. They did for a little while and then they dropped it. So they've got so much money coming they don't care. Okay, that's it. One last question. That's going to be the last one.
Very quick, do you have a relationship or promoting this, obviously, to the bigger hospitals? What about the agencies? There's so many more agencies than when I nursed 25 years ago. There was only 3, but I believe there's a huge pool of nurses now working for agencies. And that's where it was pushed on me, with only 3 at the time, you must be in the union. You must, because Q&U will protect you if you have a malpractice, misunderstanding, mistake.
Yeah. Look, the marketing side has really taken second place. You've got to get the back. Who's been in business here? You've got to get the back end right, okay? You've got to have the systems right and the business systems and the protocols. That's what it's all about. And we're not quite there yet. We're probably only a couple of months away. It's been a slow, hard grind. And that's taking our major interest. When that's done, then we can have fun marketing and going to see everybody else. At this stage, most of our membership's coming from referrals. We pinched the Uber idea. So if you refer someone, they get a free month, you get a free month. Simple as. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you, Graeme. Okay, housekeeping.
Will I go too long?
How are we going with this list of people to have a flat up?
Yes, just there's a
15
couple of
minutes
people
at a
haven't paid, I don't think, so I
I'll
need
give you
to
an extra
get
5 or
those
10
people.
minutes. 15.